Hi, everyone. David Aragona and Mike Beer here, taking a look at one of two stakes races scheduled for Thursday at Santa Anita. Race 3 is the Eddie Logan. And Mike, I think this is the second date that's been, or the third date that's been planned for this race. It was initially supposed to be run on the Sunday of that opening week. They didn't even card it for that day. They rescheduled it for the Wednesday of this past week, but unfortunately, more rains fell in Southern California. They just had a really rough week, a slew of cancellations. So hopefully things have dried out enough by Thursday for these turf races to get run, because this Eddie Logan, Mike, came up with a pretty nice field, and it's, of course, led by the number 2, Stark Contrast, who figures to be a heavy favorite. The runner-up in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf behind Gstaad, who was recently announced as one of the finalists for the 2-year-old male champion at the Eclipse Awards. So Stark Contrast is going to be a handful, but it's a pretty talented group for a listed stakes race.
I think there is some real upside in this field. So hopefully they finally get to run this race for these newly turned 3-year-olds. It's a decent field for sure. I think there are a lot of horses who have a chance to be pretty good. That being said, if Stark Contrast comes back off this, very short break here and runs as well as he did the last time we saw him, he's going to beat these horses.
Let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector for this Eddie Logan. And I think one of the advantages that Stark Contrast might possess over this field, Mike, is that a lot of his rivals just don't possess a whole lot of early speed. And it's not like Stark Contrast is some sort of front runner, but there is just very little speed signed on in this race. And aside from the number 1, Brigante, it was a little tough to make a case for on the win end. I mean, Stark Contrast is one of the only other horses with any semblance of tactical speed. So if he gets the kind of trip that this pace projector is indicating, it's just going to make him ultra tough to beat.
Yeah, I'm not sure why they wouldn't just try to take advantage of this also, David, if nobody else is going. I mean, as you point out, he's not a speed, but they made sort of a conscious decision to rate him in his first 2 turf starts and the Breeders' Cup last time. That was a very strong pace that he wasn't that far away from. I don't know, man. If they have him ready to go and here even close to ready to go, I'd be surprised if they took him back.
Let's go through this Eddie Logan field from the rail out, beginning with the number 1, Brigante. And speaking of that Timeform US pace projector, he's the one that maybe you can project would get to the front end and maybe be able to slow down the pace a little bit like he was able to do when he broke his maiden 2 back at Del Mar, Mike. But that was against a weaker field than he's facing here. He was no match for some rivals that he'll line up against once again in the Cecil B. DeMille last time. And even if he gets a pace advantage, it's a little tough to make a case for him beating this group.
It's just one of those horses, too. You start looking at his overall PPs, you just wonder. I mean, obviously, Doug O'Neill really liked this horse. I mean, they ran him in a bunch of tough races as a maiden still. He finally did get the maiden win when they dropped him 2 back. I think I think they do probably put him on the lead here, David. He did draw a trouble comment for the DeMille last time, and he did have trouble in that race, but he also didn't run at all when he got clear of that trouble. So he was one of the horses in here. I think there are a bunch of horses that I'm interested in going forward. I don't know that Brigante was one of those.
The number 2, Stark Contrast, he's likely to be a heavy favorite in this race, and rightly so, based on this Breeders' Cup performance that we'll take a look at the replay for, because, Mike, he got a very good ride in here. I thought Kazushi Kimura did everything right, being aggressive early, as you noted, to get that position behind 3 dueling leaders. He saved ground, cutting back to the inside at the top of the stretch here, like you see, to chase home the best winner, Gstaad, who did have to go wide around the entire course. So the Stark Contrast was decidedly second best in this race, but still, it was a very strong effort to finish well clear of the rest of the group behind that talented European winner. And Mike, this was a horse that just kept improving from start to start prior to the Breeders' Cup. He took another big step forward in late October. And if he's ready to go off this brief layoff, he's going to be pretty tough to beat.
Yeah, he's just going to be really tough to beat. His first 2 turf starts they might not look that good on paper. They're certainly not fast, but I thought he ran really well in both of them. And he obviously took a big step forward at the Breeders' Cup last time. He was, as you noted, he was only second best in there, but man, he ran in that race. He was very close to a very strong pace. He was finishing right up with that winner at the end of the race. He just couldn't catch him. If he runs that race back, he's going to beat these horses.
The number 3, Irashock, is one of a few coming out of that Cecil B. DeMille in late November at Del Mar. And Mike, he ran pretty well. I thought the pace was honest in there, and it was coming apart a little bit at the end. So he was picking up pieces in the late stages, but he did travel well to the quarter pole and put in a decent late kick. I liked that race best of any of his prior turf races in this country. I thought it was a workmanlike maiden score 2 back, nothing that really made me want to bet him moving forward. But he is moving forward in terms of his form from race to race. Just wonder if he's going to get the pace that he needs against this field, given the pace projector.
Doesn't seem like he is. We'll see. They were obvious. They were super conservative with him and at the mill last time. I'm not sure why Rispoli was waiting so long to get going with this horse, but he waited until they turned into the stretch. Then he finally turned this horse loose, and he did gain ground. I'm not sure that like you've already sort of pointed out. I'm not sure that performance isn't dressed up a little bit. But I still always hate it when they ride horses like that. I mean, get this horse into the race and give him a chance to win it.
The number 4, Unrivaled Time. He was the winner of the Cecil B. DeMille. We'll take a look at the stretch run of the race. We already talked about Irashok. He's the one that's closing from towards the back of the pack with the white cap all the way on the outside. But in the pink cap with the blue silks, that is Unrivaled Time kind of battling on between horses. And Mike, I can't say that it ever looked like he was traveling like the winner of this race as they came around the far turn. But you could see as they come into the final 8th of a mile, he just keeps finding more between horses. He's finishing best of all across the wire. He never lets these horses by on the gallop out. So just feels like the kind of horse that might even want to go further than a mile down the line as the distance get longer. He's not going to stretch out here, obviously, but he was pretty impressive when he broke his maiden 2 back. So this horse clearly has talent. I'll just be interested to see how they ride him because I wouldn't want to see him give away too much early position to the likely favorite.
Yeah, I agree. What they should do is sort of ride him like they did last time because they did keep him relatively close to that pace. He was tracking it. They weren't trying to get up close, but they kept him right within range there. I really like the way that this horse finishes in his races. He's got a real strong kick on him. And we showed that replay right there. I gave him extra credit for that effort, David, because he did have the heavy favorite. That's the horse that was right alongside him from the 3/16 pole to the wire, just sort of leaning on this horse. It's not like he had a super clear run and he just ran away from that horse at the end. And then, people, if you have access to the replays for all of his races, I thought his maiden win 2 back was super impressive. This horse came flying through the stretch to run over those horses late.
The number 5, Plutarch, he's another one that put in a pretty impressive maiden breaking score. That was his last start. We'll take a look at the stretch run of this 9-furlong race at Del Mar. So he's actually cutting back a furlong to try the mile here against Stakes Company, but he's tried Stakes Company before this maiden score. They just threw him to the wolves at his second start, running in a graded stakes on the turf, then the grade 1 American Pharaoh on the dirt. And he actually acquitted himself well in both of those races, Mike. I wouldn't even be upset to see him go back to the dirt at some point in his career, but this horse finishes strongly. Getting out of the gate and getting early position has been a problem for him really since the start of his career. But I do like that he's gotten a little bit more professional in his stretch runs because he was lugging in pretty badly in a few of his early races. And it feels like he's kind of gotten that sorted out recently. I still, though, worry about the pace of this race because he just doesn't possess that much early speed.
Yeah, that was my worry too. I just wondered what kind of trip he's going to get in this race. I think he's run well. He's 1 for 3 on the turf at this point. I think he's run well in all of his turf races, but and as you've already pointed out, he's run well in his dirt races too. He just seems like a good horse to me, but he's probably not going to be, some kind of super interesting price in here. And I worry about the trip he's going to pull.
The number 6, Caro Buono, he is another one that doesn't have a whole lot of early speed. He was behind horses at the top of the stretch in the Cecil B. DeMille last time, arguably had a little bit of trouble, had to wait for room and then angled out. He was finishing pretty well at the end once he finally got clear. Never really a threat to the top couple of finishers in that race. I wish I'd seen a little more in the thoroughbred after Caroline's 2 back, Mike. He did have to kind of try to bull his way out to the top of the stretch inside of Plutarch, but didn't really finish after that. So I've wanted to see a little bit more out of this horse, and I have trouble making a case that he's going to take a step forward, just given the fact that he's not likely to get a whole lot of pace help up front.
Yeah, I did think that he ran, pretty well last time. In other words, he was just sort of blocked at the top of the stretch and unable to get going. When he did get clear, he really ran at the end of that race, but it was way too late. I'm kind of with you on the aftercare too. I mean, it wasn't a terrible trip, but it wasn't a great trip either. I don't think he's terribly dirtied up, David, but maybe he really is. Maybe he's a lot better than he looks on paper.
I'm a little bothered that by far his worst effort was the one over the Santa Anita turf course. Sometimes horses do prefer that Del Mar course as opposed to Santa Anita, especially as closers. The number 7, Third Beer. Mike, this was a horse that was pretty impressive when he won his debut race at Del Mar over the summer. He put in a big late kick to get the job done that day. I can't say that I love either performance since then. He got a pretty good trip behind Stark Contrast in the Zuma Beach, was never getting to that foe. And his Breeders' Cup was pretty disappointing, but it was the Breeders' Cup. I mean, he did get to save ground, tried to follow Stark Contrast, just had little left for the final quarter mile that day. So he's getting real class relief here, but he's another one that likes to come from towards the back of the pack.
Yeah, we'll see what kind of trip he can get in this race. Yeah, I think it's perfectly reasonable though to just not be that hard on him for the Breeders' Cup. And if you take that race out of it, you're left with I like you. I thought his debut win was a pretty impressive performance. His only other start, they throw him right into a grade 3 against Star Contrast. He's beaten light by that horse. There's nothing wrong with third beer in this race. I wonder what kind of price he's going to be.
Let's go to our picks for this Eddie Logan early in the day on Thursday at Santa Anita. And Mike, I'm not trying to beat this favorite Star Contrast. I mean, I do think that the horse you put on top, Unrivaled Time, is pretty intriguing moving forward. But Star Contrast, he just seems to have a pace advantage over this field. He's got the good form. So I'm not going to probably bet on him at a very short price, but I do think he's going to be awfully tough to beat.
I agree. If he runs his Breeders' Cup back, he's going to beat these horses. His other two races, I don't know if they make him a standout, but they were fine as well. We'll see what happens here. He's way the horse to be in there. I really like what I've seen from Unrivaled Time. I think he's going to be a fair price here. I'll take a shot.
4-2-6-5 for Mike and 2-4-5-3 for me in the Eddie Logan race 3 at Santa Anita on Thursday. Good luck for playing the races later this week.